It's my life. Lazy. It's my life. I got dirty. It's my life. I wanna shopping. It's my life. Money. Yeah.
Finish talking about protests and policy in the community. We want to know, how can we bridge the gap between the people in the seats and the people in the streets. So I want y'all to introduce yourself. Everybody know me already, so y'all introduce yourself. Mr. Craig, Mr. Rudy.
Okay, I'm Rudolph Glass Jr. I'm the president of the Lakeside Erie Neighborhood Association.
All right.
And I am Craig Lee. I am chairman of the board of Get Up Incorporated, co-founder and board member of Dads on Duty, and currently I am candidate for Shreveport City Council District B, right here where Hannah Perry Park sits in the Hollywood section of Shreveport.
Awesome. So now let's get down to it. Now we just talking regular, we having a normal conversation, but we want to get the information out about voter registration, the steps, like the importance of it, and again, how do we bridge this gap between the seats and the streets? Mr. Craig?
One of the biggest things that I've found where you have a disconnect in the grassroots community, and I'm not gonna even start with dealing with the politicians first. Just basically in the so-called grassroots community, most people don't have any understanding as to how activism actually works or how advocacy works. First and foremost, to be an activist means that you are reacting or responding to situations. To be an advocate means that you're being proactive about situations, things that you want to lobby for, or issues that you want to actually see change. Just like anything else, you have to have training to understand how to effectively do anything. And so what I've come to realize, now that I'm an elder in this game, and I've been here in Shreveport now, although this is my hometown, I've been doing this now for 27 years. What I've come to realize is when I left corporate America and I started in 1995, I was there to learn from Willie Bradford, Lloyd Thompson, former councilman, former judge Huey Huckabee, former councilman Joe Shine, attorney and former NAACP president Larry English. I was there to learn. And so I had basically an internship from 1995 up until 2000.
Okay.
And that's when I broke and now began to do things in a grassroots way, because their politics did not really serve the interests of the grassroots community. They did certain things, but it was not a full-scale philosophy that would actually benefit the grassroots. So that's the first thing. Then when we get to the so-called politicians, the reason that that's never going to work is because the people who typically get elected, they're not coming from the grassroots perspective.
Gotcha.
They might have been poor or whatever, but they only look at this through the lenses of their oppressor, in terms of telling people what they want to hear and then getting in and doing the thing the way that they do it. So that's never going to work.
Right.
The only way that this is going to work for us is that we now elect people from the grassroots who have our philosophy, who put in the work, who has a resume, receipts, and references that's now going to advocate and help to change lives for our people. Those are the people who need to get elected. And then you don't have to worry about being lied to, because they're going to serve the interests of the people.
Gotcha. What do you say about that, Mr. Woody?
You know, I agree with everything Craig said. You know, one of the things that really get to me, a couple of days ago, I'm in the car ride, and radio was on. So I heard a young lady come on the radio, they were talking to, I'm not sure who it was or what radio station, but she said, oh, I just love listening to the radio. I hear the music and the conversations, you know, the stuff we talk about. It's fun. I'm like, fun? Where do a lot of people, they listen to the radio on a regular basis, okay? But what happens? A lot of times, a bunch of foolishness on there. A lot of things can be talked about, dealt with, and all. Every morning, I listen to Kill Radio. Every morning, religiously, because you have different people on there. They have different topics, and Kill would a lot of times Kill know what's happening before everybody else do. Okay, so when we don't have any type of outlet that's giving information other than foolishness, that's how we're gonna get is foolishness. A lot of them they don't know about voting, they don't care about it because they don't ever hear it. A lot of times they don't hear it at home. Grandma might vote, mama might vote, but guess what? They never did really just take the time to get on them and get them, you know, get registered to vote. And once we do that, and the kids learn the people, because a lot of people vote because of name recognition. He went to the church, he did this, he worked over here. Yeah. And they'll vote for him. Don't know nothing about him. Yeah. And they get in, the same people Craig talked about, the ones that get elected are not the ones that really got that grassroots outlook. Like you say. But see, people talk about, the other night I had a young lady wanted to help with the, she wanted to do National Night Out. And she said she wanted to help the neighborhood. She wanted to know what she do to help the neighborhood. If you really care about the neighborhood the way you say you do, why don't you leave the neighborhood? Exactly. You have people go build houses everywhere but where they from. And when they leave, what happens to the property a lot of times? It goes down. It goes down. They don't want to sell it, you know. So, I mean, until we get to where we pour positive things in our young people's mind, it's not gonna happen. You see, the church is not happening. And that's something that really got me pretty upset, because when you, back in the civil rights movement, the church was the place. And as time went by, I'm gonna put it like this, we all know, when we have something good going for us, a plan is gonna be made to destroy that. You know, and that's what has happened to a lot of things that we had. If you look back, all the things that we had as far as organizations and people who really cared, all that's gone. You know, so I mean, until we get that, we forget about a whole lot. Sad to say.
So what I'm hearing from both of you guys is that right now is definitely a gap between the politicians and the people. The politicians, on one hand, they get voted in and they're not held accountable. And then the people are just really trying to enjoy life and not thinking about the importance of generational wealth and building and, you know, community development and things like that. And it sounds like, Mr. Ruby, you probably be on to something. Maybe we can start putting this in the schools, you know, making a move like that, because I mean, right now they're still talking about slavery, but they ain't really talking about voter registration. Well,
let me break it down to you like this. So if you go back to 1966, when the Black Panther Party was started out in Oakland by our homeboy, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, right? So they get started. They were young guys, they're young people. They were smart, but they were young. So they didn't really know all the particulars. It took them about 5 years to figure out how they really needed to roll. Initially, they were agitated, and they really didn't understand all the dynamics of the process. Now, why do I bring them up? So we fast forward 56 years later, and you got young people who are doing the wrong things 56 years later. So you say, well, Craig, how do you know it's the wrong thing? Because the Black Panther Party themselves shifted gears 5 or 6 years later. So you got all these fools walking around wanting to tote guns and believing that that's what the Black Panther Party was about. That they only did the gunplay to get the minds, capture the minds of the masses. These folks, most people get into the free lunch programs. The Black Panther Party actually started health clinics in the United States, right?
They did.
They started a lot of different things, right? And so the free lunch program is just one of them. They had schools, they had freedom schools. So they were actually homeschooling, legal clinics, health clinics. So they were doing these things. Now they had the wrong political philosophy. They were rolling with socialism and communism. But the point is they were agitating, and it took them about 5 years to figure out it's not an either or thing. We need to agitate, but we also need to legislate. So they were agitating and educating, but they were not legislating. So this gets back to the point that you were talking about, the disconnect between, it finally dawned on them, we gotta actually run for office. So Bobby Seale ran for mayor of Oakland. He was unsuccessful, but he finished second behind Jerry Brown. And I think Elaine Brown ran for city council. But by then it was too late, because now the FBI, the CIA, all the alphabet boys, they were on him, right? So now, 56 years later, why would young people repeat the same failures that they made from 1966 to like 1970 versus understanding what they started doing from 1970 up until they ended? So it shows you that our folks are romanticizing, wanting to tote guns, and we're gonna shoot our way. Look, man, this thing is so crazy. Rudy used to be in the military, so he'll tell you, whatever you see in the movies or whatever you see on television, where you see the capability of the Army, bro, that's like 20 years old.
Right.
So they got drones that can set up 100 miles away and shoot, blow you up.
Right.
And they don't even have to put any troops on the ground. So this is what I'm saying, Jazz. Our people refuse to study, and that's why people, the saying, those who do not study history are doomed to repeat it. And Marcus Garvey said that a people without the knowledge of its past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. So young people are sitting up saying stuff like, oh, we ain't our ancestors. Like our ancestors were punks or something like that. Some of them were, but like, how do you think you got the right to vote? How do you think you earned some of the freedoms that you have? People actually died. And so we don't have the young folks today, most of them, not all, because I think you really have a sincere desire to learn. Most of them do not have an appreciation for the struggle to just get us to this point. So they're wanting to romanticize, just kind of like the rappers and the gangbangers, the gun toting. That's not going to get you anywhere. You're not going to out muscle these folks. Period. Period.
You gotta outthink them.
You got to outthink them, mobilize, organize, and I heard you all reference registration. We got enough people registered. They don't go vote. Because there's a disconnect between what they perceive voting is supposed to do for them and the people who are getting elected. Well, if 70% of the people don't go vote, and the 20 to 30% do vote, and they're voting for the wrong people who even mess over them, then you're gonna keep on having that. The only solution is people have to get elected from those entities who are mobilized, organized, and about the business of liberation, empowering, and advancing the cause of our people. It's really that simple.
You know what? One of the things that really get me too, Jazz, you hit on this earlier, to educate our kids don't know the history. I mean, simple stuff they don't know because they hadn't been taught. And their parents hadn't been taught. You know, when I was young, I was told by my mother that Malcolm X was a bad guy.
Like
and a lot of people, and a lot of people only went by what they heard.
Exactly.
And if you notice, any black leader or personality that we have, a lot of times they wait till they pass away before they give them their recognition and acknowledgement. About what a great person, person they were, you know. And it's sad, but we have to educate. That's why it's important. Like School board. We gotta have school board. Okay?
Exactly.
We have to get someone in Baton Rouge to legislate to make Black history a required course in school. See, the thing about it is this. They don't want us together because there's no money in it, okay?
Yeah.
They keep us apart. Because if young white kids heard the real Black history, as well as little Black kids hear Black history, it will make a big difference.
Yeah.
The way they even feel about each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But when you don't have the education, the information, you forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the point Jazz made about the churches and you as well, Rudy, I think once they saw King get assassinated, Megan Evans get assassinated, Malcolm get assassinated, them Negroes ain't about that life, man. They ain't about that life. Cause look, Jazz, I returned to Shreveport in 1994 as a pharmaceutical sales rep. I was 28 years old. I left Astra Pharmaceuticals. I was relocated here to take over North Louisiana and Southern Arkansas from Atlanta, Georgia. And I was like, man, I can't get with Shreveport. I'm on my way back to Atlanta. And it was a murder that actually kept me here. A young brother who I was a big brother to growing up in Queensboro murdered a guy. And this was the first time that I asked the creator, like, man, why are these brothers and sisters killing each other? And the creator was like, look around your community and tell me, what don't you see? And I said, I don't see any spirituality, I don't see any culture, I don't see any education, I don't see no economics, I don't see any socioeconomics, I don't see any politics. And it was at that moment, the creator was like, look, I raised you in Shreveport, gave you the foundation for your education, took you to Xavier University, took you to corporate America, not for you to live in New Orleans or Atlanta or Birmingham or Nashville or Boston, the places that you live, but for you to take the exposure and the experiences in those places and now bring them back to your people. And that's when I left the $80,000 job in order to start doing this work. Because I said to myself, and Rudy and I hooked up in 1995, 96 as well, I said, the only way that this thing is going to happen, somebody who's seen both sides of this, from the streets, from the hood, who's also been in corporate America, that can now come back and earnestly be willing to teach folks. But now what you see is, folks will say, I remember some cats from the Nation of Islam once told me, Craig, at first we didn't trust you because you wore a suit every day, and people said that you were probably working for the people. And I just bust out laughing. He said, what's funny? I said, bro, y'all wear a suit every day, and all you be thinking about. Now think about it. They're wearing a suit passing out the final calls and bean pies. I'm wearing a suit handling business, but I'm not to be trusted. So we have this thing so twisted that the person who is from the hood, who goes and gets his education, her education, all of them are sellouts. I mean, there's this twisted thing. So if you don't have people who have skill, who can navigate, now what ends up happening? You're always going to constantly be subjugated to those sellouts who are in key positions, and now you don't even know who to trust. And this is those people will play all of us, the people who support them, the people who don't support them, because guess what? If you don't go vote, guess what you did?
Do away your vote.
You actually voted.
Yeah.
You voted for the status quo to remain in place. Your non-vote was a vote for the status quo. Because if 70%, is 70% greater than 30%?
No.
Is 70% greater than 30%?
Is 70% greater than 30%?
Yeah.
No.
Is 70% greater than 30%?
Yeah, you ain't thinking about it, man.
Okay, let me see. 70%, is it greater than 30%?
Is 70 greater than 30?
No. 70%.
It's
Or you mean like voters?
Period. Is 70% of something greater than 30% of something?
It is to me, y'all.
So yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So if there are more people who don't vote than the people who vote, who actually has the power?
the 30%.
No, who actually has the power?
Well, since you put it like they didn't vote, they do got
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if they were to find their candidates, their team, they could take over the system.
Yeah.
So they don't vote. Everybody on there, except for the person who would have voted for, get a vote.
It's crazy. I have never thought about it like this.
See, because Shreveport, all of these cities, Jazz, they're corporations. And I want you to, I want everybody watching this, and I want you, Rudy, y'all, do the research. In 1985, if I was to ask y'all this question, if you had a chance to be a part of a team that could have taken over control of Microsoft in 1985, somebody offered you this opportunity, and you didn't really have to put up really any money, would you have rolled with that 37 years ago? Y'all got a chance to take over Microsoft. You're part of a team. Would you do that?
Yeah.
All right. Now check this out. I want y'all to do the research. Everybody looking at this. In 1985, Microsoft, Rudy, was doing $140 million a year. In 1985. Follow me now. You got a chance to now take over this. So now you're now going to take over this corporation. Now, what allows you to take over that corporation? What would allow you to take over that corporation?
Either the money or the percentage that you have in the company.
Okay, and what is that percentage called? What's the term for that?
Is it equity?
Okay, what's the equity called? What's that called, Rudy?
It's called stock.
Stop!
Yeah.
Follow me now. I'm about to teach y'all the game so your people can really understand what's at stake. So Microsoft has stock. And the stock is sold in shares. All right? So now a group of shareholders say, you know what? We do not like the direction that the corporation is going in. We don't like Bill Gates. We're gonna do a hostile takeover. Now, as it relates to you having stock and being a shareholder, every year they have what? At the end of the year? They have an annual meeting. And at the annual meeting, who is invited to the annual meeting, Rudy? The stockholders, the shareholders. And now they have an opportunity to do what?
Take over.
And do whatever.
How did they take over?
Yeah.
Through what? Through what? Voting.
Yeah.
Now, 1985, Microsoft, do the research, they were doing 140 million. Guess how much Microsoft did last year?
100 billion.
160.8 billion.
Damn.
Now, what does this have to do with voting? Now, I showed you one
power
aspect,
in voting.
the power in voting. But guess what the city of Shreveport is?
The same thing.
It is a public sector version of Microsoft. When I moved back here in 1994, the city of Shreveport was $1 billion corporation. Right now, it's a $500 million corporation. Why is it a $500 million corporation now?
Because the value went down.
How did the value go down?
Crime, no community development, a lot of reasons.
Okay, so this is the real reason why it went down.
Okay.
General Motors left.
Yeah.
AT&T Lucent Technologies left. Goo Batteries left. Libby Glass just left. See, they pay taxes. And their employees pay taxes.
Yeah.
So now the tax base dwindled. Okay? Because we're a corporation.
Yeah.
So we went from $1 billion to $500 million. During that time frame, Rudy and his mom, they were in business. We advocated, my team, to help bring in the Fair Share program. They were the #1 office supplier, African American, in the city at the time. Were you not, Rudy?
Rudy told me about that. That is awesome.
What ended up happening, Rudy?
Well, the Shreveport Times did a article on Fair Share, and they asked my mother how was it, and she told them that it was working okay, but it could be improved. It could be better. So the mayor at that time, Keith Hightower, did not like that comment. So they owed us a check for about $8,000–9,000. And it had been over the 60 days. So Mom called a couple of times. So the lady told me, Mr. Hightower would like to see you all. He have a check for you. Okay, so we went to his office, talked to him. So he wanted her to retract what she said in the paper.
Come on.
He was holding the money for that reason.
Come on.
He wanted her to give praises to
Come on.
the Fair Share program. She was not that type of woman. So she didn't know. So no, we got our checks. We had sold merchandise, okay? So after that, later on that year, things just started going down. Greg Tarver, owner of Quality Office Supply, they started getting the business. It wasn't, I mean, it was only 2 black office supplies. Only 2. And after that really just took us down. But the good thing about it is that we didn't give up. Wind up getting a 3M distributorship.
Yeah.
And we still did some office supplies also. But
who was advocating for y'all, Rudy?
Oh, Craig. Hey, I'm gonna tell you the funny story. Let's go down and talk to the guy Sam Gillum, who's to be over Fair Share, and we was talking, and he told me, he said, well, Rudy, no, he said, Betty, if you keep Rudy out of the city council meeting with Craig and keep him out of the city council, you might be able to get some business. So I'm listening to the dude say that. So Mama said, Rudy, look, you heard what he said, but I want you to continue to do what you're doing. And I still been doing it ever since. But if we don't stand up and fight, like we have elected people that will fight.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, very few people live in, but they have to live in the community, but they don't live in the actual, where I say I'm not even gonna call it a war zone, in the jungle.
Yeah.
They don't live they live on the outskirts of the jungle where they got enough on their zip code to make them eligible to run for office. Okay? And even then, a lot of them, they have other interests. So guess what? You're not their interest.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not really invested in the community because they don't live on the outskirts and probably on their way to the
Exactly.
And that's the way they do. So all these people say they love Lakeside, Allendale, Queensboro. They leave. It's like you in love with your wife, but you leave.
Yeah.
You in love with your husband, but you leave for what?
Yeah.
You know, they come back wanting to help, but guess what? The young people, they're not stupid. I mean, they do some silly stuff, but they're not stupid because they know that, hey, this dude come over here trying to tell us something, and he moved from over here. And they know more about you than what you think they do. You know? So, I mean, it's just sad, but the things that you do, Jazz, hey, you doing good. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we need more young people like you.
Thank you.
You know.
And she's willing to learn.
Exactly.
If more of them, and I fight Jazz because, again, I'll be 55 in a few months. I have to fight because Rudy and his mom, they put their money up, they put their sweat and equity up. And so somebody has to be able to fight for them. But you can't fight like a lot of young folks like to use social media today, talk about the preachers and the disrespect them. You can't do it that way. See, because at the end of the day, his mom, though they were supporters of mine, they go to church. So you can't just blast all of these folks. But some of your biggest supporters will be some of your church people.
Yeah.
Because they know that their pastors are not doing. So you don't have to do that. In the movie Malcolm X, Denzel Washington playing the role of Malcolm X did an example where Elijah Muhammad took a glass of water and poured water in it, and he put some ink in it. He said, you give this to them, they'll drink. It was dirty. And they got another glass and poured water, and it was clear. He said, you give this to them, and they'll also drink. Meaning, you got to give the people an option. And I get why so many younger folks want to do all of this, cursing and stuff on social media and blasting and all that. I get it.
Right.
You can't do it because now the people who vote are primarily those church folks. They're primarily the ones who own houses.
Right.
They're the ones who make investments.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
See, you don't understand. So within this overall dynamic, you have to be multidimensional within this overall framework. And so Rudy and his mom were great case analyses of why I fight for them, because they've taken the major risks.
Right, right.
And if you don't have somebody, I did the statistical analysis for Rudy, his mom, and all of the black businesses, over 300 hours of time that now laid the foundation for what now Leon Wheeler is doing as the Fair Share program. You see?
And real quick, y'all, Mr. Rudy, what is the Fair Share program for people who don't know?
I think Craig can do it like that.
Okay.
He's done a lot of research.
Yeah.
The Fair Share program is an economic parity program, or a program that's supposed to bring some equity, as you talked about earlier, to African American firms, although it's not specific to African American firms. The term that they use is disadvantaged business enterprise. And it's supposed to level the playing field. But as Rudy will tell you, there's politics even within that dynamic.
Right, right.
And see, again, if you don't have the elected officials who know how to decipher, discern, and read the information and understand it, then it's not anything. Finally, we have Leon Wheeler in the office of Fair Share Director, and now he's making some movements to help increase the amount of contract procurement. Because when the program first started in 1998, contract procurement was, probably overall about 3%.
Right.
The city, again, is a corporation. So corporation has contracts.
Right, right.
So you talk about $500 million a year used to be going out in contracts. Our people were only getting between 1 to 3%. Right now, that number is probably about 200 to 300 million. Our people still only getting about 3%, 3 to 5%, if that. And so Leon is doing the best that he can, but we have to now have people elected who now understand these things. But guess who else has contracts? The parish of Caddo.
Yeah.
Guess who else has contract? The school board. You see? So you're talking about $500-600 million a year in contract procurements and jobs.
This is the word I was trying to think of, Mr. Rudy, procurement.
Yeah, procurement.
Yeah.
Yeah, contract procurement and jobs. See, that's what this is about.
Yeah.
You see? So now go back to Microsoft, 140 million, now 160.8 billion. You can start to pay some people some pretty good salary.
For sure.
70 to 80% Jazz of our labor force works for the public sector, meaning they work for the city, the parish, the school system, the state. If 70 to 80% of your people work for the public sector, and now we've gone from 214,000, 220,000 down to like 188,000, and now the businesses have left. How you gonna get salary increases?
Right.
How you gonna fix your streets?
Right.
See, I'm just gonna tell the people the damn truth.
Right.
So I don't have to make things up. That's why we gotta have individuals like Rudy, who's over Lena, to now get other people involved in the overall process.
Right.
But one of the most important things, we talked about the things that you did, and the people that you helped did not want to help you, would not stand behind you in the things you were doing, okay? And you did this for free. Anybody else? They would have had to get together and get their money together and pay somebody to do it. And that's the sad thing about it. We don't be right with each other on a lot of things. And the young people need to understand this. If you have someone that's doing, whether they're your age or older, you have to protect them.
Yeah.
You have to make sure they're okay. Don't let anybody wrong, because guess what? I have grandkids. So what I do now, whether it's with the school board or wherever, I'm advocating, I'm fighting for my grandkids. And even their kids, okay? Because a lot of times things are put in place, they're gonna stay in place for a while.
Yeah.
So that's why we have to vote.
Yeah.
I think that's good, y'all, and you hit on something really important because I think that's one of the things we can start off with parents and guardians. If you don't do it for your neighbor, if you don't do it for your church members, do it for yourself and your family. Do it for your kids in your household. Go vote for them. You know, and I think that was really good, Mr. Rudy.
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all have any information y'all want to put out there before we end this podcast?
Well, this coming week, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, is coming in from England to film a documentary on us dads on duty. So they'll be in on Tuesday and Wednesday doing that. We have the Nashville public school system. They're sending like 4 representatives in next month to come and see how we've been doing dads on duty. And so we got a lot of things going on. My kickoff for my campaign will be on September the 7th. But we're in full campaign mode. We're about the business of transforming Shreveport. And the thing I want to tell all of your listeners and followers, if you are not going to do work, shut the hell up. If all you're going to do is complain and not get involved, shut the hell up. We have enough people complaining, but we don't have enough people to do the work. What is the scripture? The work is plentiful, but the laborers are what? Few. There's a lot of work. You don't have time to be hating. You have to do the work. And if you want to do what I call good deed work, you know, giving backpacks and all these hey, that's on you. I don't do those things. I don't have an issue per se with people who are doing them. But if we're not going to teach people to become empowered, if we're not going to teach them how to stand on their own 2 feet, I do empowerment work. I don't do good deed work. I mean, I put it like this, I do it, but you'll never see me promote it. At the end of the day, my job is to help people stand on their own and become structured spiritually, culturally, educationally, economically, socially, and politically. When I've done that, I've done my job. Shreveport is a great city. We can make it absolutely our Wakanda if people just get in and do work. So that's my challenge to your viewers. Get in, follow Jazz, get involved in the process, and be willing to do work.
Yes. I want to say my little piece is, like, I know we got enough people registered to vote, but I would like for everyone to know the full process of voting, which is registering, voting. Once those people that we vote for, because again, like Mr. Craig just taught us, we have the power. You non-voters, we have all the power. So once we choose that person and they're in that seat, hold them accountable. If they're not doing what we need them to do, recall. We have to do the whole process, because just registering and just voting, but not coming to the city council meetings, not knowing what bills are being passed right under our nose, not keeping up with commissioner meetings, all those city hall meetings, community neighborhood watch, things like that, those are all important, and they go together with us registering and voting and putting people in seats. So just remember it as a package deal. It's the whole picture is to make sure that we're good, that we have that generational wealth, we're not being oppressed. We have to use our power though. If we don't, then history is going to repeat itself, and as you can see, we need change. We need a different and new. We need to start off where our ancestors left off and not repeat what they've done. We need to start off where they left off, which is getting in the seats, like Mr. Craig said, and then put in more things in place for us. So that's my bit for this podcast.
I just wanna, say this. This election is very important. So I wish you all would look at the candidates. Don't just know their name or know their family or they went to school with their daughter and all. Don't do that, please. Because you have some of us that don't have us in their best interest. So find out who's who and vote. Look at their track record, okay? Look at the track record. If you don't know anything about them, you might not want to know anything about them. So do that, please, because we have to. I mean, it's something that has to be done, okay? Another thing, you know, we talk about, you know, the young people and what, and this is the thing that gets me. There are some smart young people.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a brain, and they're so smart, but there's been no one there that has really been able to expose them to different things. Kids have to be exposed to different things. You never know what you like or what you can do unless you're exposed to it.
Yep.
So when we elect our school board members, we have to get some changes done in our curriculum for our schools.
That's right.
Yeah.
When I went to Booker T, we had almost every industrial course you could take. Brick masonry, metal work. They had we could do printing.
Yeah.
I mean, they had everything. Dry cleaning.
Yeah.
A lot of those kids, when they left school, half the day had a full-time job.
Yeah.
And they were making money, okay?
Yeah.
So everybody, it wasn't no problem for them finding jobs. A lot of them now have their own businesses that went to Booker T and got their training from Booker T, okay? Everybody's not able to go to college. A lot of people are smart as well, but they don't want to go to college, okay? So they have to have some alternative for them. Because like Craig said a while back, all these kids graduating from high school, man, but what they gonna do when they go to college, when they get out? You know, I mean, so we gotta think about it. We have to know who we vote for. Please know who you vote for. You can Google them, okay? Or you can ask, matter of fact, my boy Craig, you know. I mean, so I'm just saying, if you, but on the real, if you have any type of questions or whatever, you can reach me or Craig. We can get together if enough people are interested. We can even hold something. We can speak to all y'all and give y'all the information you need. So please know who you vote for.
This good. This good.
And Jazz, they can come to Tuesday Morning Breakfast Group meeting every Tuesday at Orlando's 9 o'clock, and to Rudy's point, resume. For example, where do you work at?
I work at the Northwest Louisiana Sickle Cell Disease Association of America. It's a long title.
All right. So did you have to present a resume?
Yes, I did.
Why did you have to present a resume?
Because you want to know who you're hiring.
Oh,
Yeah.
did you have to have references?
Absolutely.
Did you have to be able to show some receipts?
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
resume, references, receipts,
Yes.
and then you need to have a plan. That's what Rudy's talking about.
Yes, it is.
Resume, references, receipts, plan. Because that's going to tell the story. The best indication of future performance is past performance. Best indication of future performance is past performance. That's why they want to see your resume. That's why they want to talk to your references. That's why they want to see your receipts.
Right.
And if you really know, you should be able to set a plan in place.
That's right.
No one, I don't care if it's me, should receive a vote from anyone if you don't have a resume, references, receipts, and a plan. The only time this happens is when we're dealing with religion and governmental politics. You would never allow anybody to do brain surgery on you who is a damn plumber.
Right.
And they have no experience.
Right.
They have no certification. You wouldn't do it. And so we need to take that same mindset, and that's what Rudy is talking about, into the voting process.
That's good. Well, thank y'all. That's it. And y'all subscribe, like, share, and follow. See you later.
All right.
Thank y'all. That was good, y'all.
Okay.
It's my life.